All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today, we're going deep, really deep, into something pretty intense. We've got this collection of firsthand accounts. They're from Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. SLAA,
Yeah.
really powerful stuff. I mean, these stories, they're raw, honest, you know? Giving us a window into a world I think most people just don't get.
It's not exactly something you'd find in a textbook, is it? We're talking real people here.
Yeah.
And they each have a story, totally unique.
Yeah.
But there's this thread, right? This shared experience that ties them all together.
The struggle,
Mhm.
battling with sex and love addiction.
Exactly.
Now, for those who might not be totally up to speed with SLA,
Okay.
can you give us like a quick explainer?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So SLAA, it's a 12-step program, right? Designed for folks who are struggling with, controlling their sexual thoughts, feelings, behaviors. It's built on the same kind of foundation as Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
But it's laser focused on specifically sex and love addiction. The core idea is that by working through these 12 steps with a sponsor and, other members who get it, individuals can find recovery and build relationships.
Healthy ones.
Healthier relationships. That's the goal.
So helpful. Thanks for laying that out.
Yeah.
Now, these accounts that we're diving into today, what really struck me was just the variety, like the way this addiction, it shows up. It's not just about the sex itself. It's about the relationships, the behaviors. It's like this deep, almost like a desperate search for connection.
It is. Yeah, it is. And what I find so fascinating is how these stories, they're unique, obviously, each one, but they also kind of echo broader patterns we see in, addiction in general.
Oh, interesting.
Like psychologically.
Okay.
There's one woman, she describes her relationships as playing house.
Playing house.
Playing house.
Yeah.
And at first it sounds almost, whimsical.
Yeah.
But then you dig deeper, you realize there's this profound sadness.
Yeah. It's like she's going through the motions of a relationship, without ever really connecting, trying to recreate some idealized version of love she never experienced herself.
Exactly. And that speaks volumes about the powerful role of childhood, early childhood experiences, and how they shape our relationships later in life.
You see this a lot in these accounts, too. Like one man, he said he felt like a polio victim without an iron lung when he wasn't in a relationship.
Wow.
I mean, it sounds extreme, but it just shows that deep fear of being alone, of facing that emptiness without, the crutch of a romantic partner.
It's almost as if the addiction becomes a way to regulate those emotions, to cope with those underlying feelings, of inadequacy, unworthiness, like you're not enough on your own, and you need that other person.
There's another account that really got to me. This woman who she used sex to cope with childhood trauma, abuse. She talked about feeling dirty and she could never scrub herself clean no matter how much she showered. I mean, it was just heartbreaking to read that.
That's such a powerful example of how trauma can really manifest in our behaviors, especially when it comes to sex, intimacy. If a child doesn't have that safe and loving environment to develop a healthy sense of self, then they might seek validation, connection in ways that are ultimately harmful.
Yeah, it's like trying to fill a void, but using completely the wrong tools and ending up with an even bigger mess.
Exactly. And that brings us to another key piece of these stories, the search for meaning. It's not just about the physical act of sex or even the romance.
Right.
It's about seeking something deeper.
Yeah.
Something that gives, life purpose, significance.
Like you see this with the man who's constantly seeking validation through sexual encounters. Like each conquest is a way to prove his worth.
No.
Or the man who used sex to just numb the pain of his son's death. Just awful.
Heartbreaking. And these stories, they really highlight how addiction, it can become this escape route from pain.
Yeah, avoid those tough emotions.
We don't know how to deal with.
In a healthy way.
In a healthy way, yeah.
I think that's something a lot of people can relate to.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether or not they consider themselves to have an addiction, we all have, our ways of coping, stress, with sadness, those feelings of emptiness, loneliness.
It's part of being human, right?
Yeah.
But what these accounts do, I think, is they offer this glimpse into maybe the darker side of those coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And show us how they can spiral.
Out of control.
Out of control, yeah. And become really destructive forces in our life.
It's a good reminder that even the most basic human needs, like the need for connection, can become so twisted, so distorted when we don't have healthy ways to meet them.
Absolutely. And that's where I think the whole concept of recovery becomes so crucial.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to address those underlying needs, to heal those wounds, and to develop a more authentic, fulfilling way to just be in the world.
To be you.
To be you, yeah.
Speaking of recovery, I mean, these accounts, they do offer some really inspiring glimpses of how these folks found healing, sobriety,
Yeah.
and there seems to be this common thread, this power of community.
Yeah. It's crucial, yeah. That sense of belonging,
Yeah.
of, not being alone. And within SLAA, a lot of times that starts with, the 12 steps.
Yeah, the 12 steps.
It's not just some random list.
Right.
There's a whole psychology behind it.
I gotta admit, I'm not super familiar with all the ins and outs of the 12 steps. How do they actually apply to sex and love addiction?
Okay, yeah, good question. So it all starts with admitting powerlessness,
Right.
right, over the addiction, which is huge. I mean, it's often the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
Then you move to surrendering to a higher power,
Higher power.
which can be anything really,
Yeah.
a traditional God,
Yeah.
or even just the idea of the group itself being there to support you. And then there's, self-inventory, making amends for any harm caused, and, crucially, carrying the message to others.
So that service aspect we were talking about,
Yeah.
it's like baked right into the program.
It is.
It's not just about receiving support, it's about giving back too.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
what we see a lot in these accounts is that the 12 steps, they often go hand in hand with therapy.
Therapy, okay.
That's where you really start unpacking the trauma, exploring those unhealthy patterns, and, developing better coping mechanisms.
Yeah, one woman, she talked about how therapy helped her understand that her playing house behavior, it all stemmed from this deep-seated fear of abandonment.
Oh, wow.
Like she was constantly trying to prove her worthiness by being, quote unquote, the perfect partner.
Right.
Even if it meant, sacrificing her own needs, desires.
Yeah. And that fear of abandonment,
Yeah.
that comes up again and again in these stories.
Yeah.
And it often, it traces back to childhood, where love and attention felt conditional.
Conditional.
So they develop this belief that they have to constantly earn affection.
Earn it. Wow.
And that creates this vicious cycle
Yeah.
where they seek validation in relationships, but the relationships themselves are built on this shaky foundation, insecurity, fear.
Which is why therapy is so important.
It is, yeah. It gives you that safe space,
That support.
that support to really explore those deep-seated beliefs, to challenge them, and to start building a stronger sense of self-worth, one that's not, dependent on someone else's approval.
Yeah, totally. There's this one man, he described how therapy helped him realize that he was sexualizing his emotions
Sexualizing them.
because he never learned how to express them in a healthy way.
It's like he was using intimacy as a stand-in for true emotional connection.
Yeah.
And that takes us back to, addiction as a coping mechanism.
Right.
We don't have healthy ways to deal with tough emotions.
We turn to unhealthy ones.
We do, yeah.
It's amazing to me how many of these individuals, they found strength in vulnerability, in sharing their stories with others. It's like that act of opening up, acknowledging their struggles. That was a key part of their recovery.
It's huge. Shame, it thrives in secrecy. But when we our struggles into the light, we often find that, we're not alone.
Yeah.
And there's this incredible relief in knowing that others have walked that same path.
And come out on the other side?
And come out the other side, yeah.
There's a great example of this with the woman who she finally admitted to her therapist how bad she really felt in her relationship. It was like a dam broke. And she could finally release all that pent-up pain, frustration.
That's powerful. And that breakthrough moment, that's often what sparks real change.
Yeah.
It takes courage to be that honest with ourselves, with others.
Right.
But it's in those moments of vulnerability that true healing can begin.
That's when the healing starts.
That's when it starts.
These accounts also show us that recovery, it's not a straight line.
No.
There are setbacks, moments of weakness, and those old patterns.
Oh, they can creep back in.
When you least expect
At
it.
least expect it, yeah.
Like there's this man who, after months of celibacy, he found himself drawn back into those old behaviors when he was faced with some emotional turmoil.
It happens. It's a reminder that triggers are powerful. And even with the best intentions, you can slip up.
So then what? What do you do?
Well, what matters is how you handle it.
Okay.
These accounts, they emphasize self-compassion, not beating yourself up,
Right.
not getting stuck in that shame spiral,
Yeah.
but using those moments as opportunities to learn, to grow.
Yeah. Like this one man, after a slip, he was able to talk to his partner about it, honestly. And that created this space for deeper connection.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that vulnerability can be a source of strength, even in those moments when we feel like we've failed.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the importance of having that support system.
Yes.
Whether it's a therapist, a sponsor, a close friend,
Yeah.
family member, having people you can turn to for guidance, encouragement. I mean, it can make all the difference.
All the difference in the world, yeah. These accounts are they're full of these inspiring examples of how people found strength, resilience, in sometimes unexpected places. Like this one man, he discovered the power of focusing on his inner candle flame.
His inner candle flame. What does that even mean?
I love that. It's such a beautiful metaphor, for that sense of inner peace,
Yeah.
groundedness that we can all access even when things are crazy, chaotic.
Yeah.
He describes it as this feeling of calmness, clarity, connection to something bigger than himself.
So it's not about willpower then, or forcing himself to be good. It's about tapping into that inner strength?
Exactly. And the interesting thing is, he found this inner candle flame through things like meditation, spending time in nature.
Oh, interesting.
It highlights the importance of finding healthy coping mechanisms that nourish us.
Our minds are spirits.
Our minds are spirits, yeah.
There's another woman who talks about discovering joy in simple things, solitude. After years of seeking fulfillment in, these fleeting encounters.
Powerful. It's a reminder that true happiness, a lot of times it's found in those quiet moments of connection with ourselves, with the world around us.
It's like they're reclaiming their lives, their identities, and stepping into this whole new chapter full of possibilities.
Exactly. And those possibilities, they're open to anyone who's willing to embark on that journey of recovery. These stories are proof.
They really are. It's striking to me how much emphasis there is in these accounts on service within the SLAA community. These folks, they found strength in helping others, in sharing their experience, offering support to those who are, just starting out on their recovery journey.
It's a beautiful thing. It speaks to the power of connection. We're not meant to go through these things alone.
Not at all.
There's strength in community, in sharing our stories, in knowing that we're not the only ones who struggle.
And it's like they were able to take their pain and transform it into a source of healing for others.
Incredibly empowering, isn't it? It gives meaning to our struggles.
Yeah.
Knowing that our experience can help someone else find their way.
And it's amazing how that sharing their stories, it helps others, but it's also like this key part of their own healing.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like they say, right, you get what you give.
Yeah.
And in recovery, that giving back, it could look like so many things. It could be sponsoring someone new in the program, or even just being there, a supportive presence at meetings.
Just being there.
Yeah, just being there.
These accounts, they really drive home the point that recovery, it's not just about saying no to certain behaviors. It's about creating a whole new way of being, one that's rooted in self-awareness, honesty, and deep respect for yourself and others.
It's about creating a life that's not just about getting by, it's about thriving.
Yeah.
You see this in the man who, after years of addiction, he finally found a job he loved, built a healthy relationship, and became a dad.
Wow.
Which is something he never thought he could do.
That's amazing. It's like he was finally able to, break free from those chains of addiction and step into this life that's full of genuine connection and meaning.
And that transformation, it could touch every part of your life. It's not just about changing what you do. It's about changing, your whole mindset, your beliefs about yourself, your place in the world.
It's about recognizing that we're worthy of love, connection, happiness. And those things, they don't have to come at the expense of our well-being or the well-being of others.
Yeah. One thing that really stood out to me reading these accounts was how many of them talked about finding some kind of spirituality
Oh, interesting.
or connection to something bigger than themselves
Yeah.
as part of their recovery.
It is interesting. It's like when we think about addiction, we often focus on, the physical, the emotional, but there's definitely this spiritual piece too, this longing for something,
Yeah.
something more.
It's like yearning for something that goes beyond the day-to-day.
Exactly. And that spiritual connection, it can look like so many things, organized religion, nature, art, music, or even just a sense of awe at the mystery of it all.
Yeah, yeah. Just that feeling of wonder.
This one man, he talked about finding comfort in spending time in nature, just watching, the cycles of life and death, and recognizing that he's a part of something so much bigger than himself. It gave him this sense of perspective and peace that he never felt before.
It's like he was tapping into that universal connection. We all share, that we're all part of something so much greater than just ourselves.
I love that. These stories, they're truly inspiring. They remind us that it doesn't matter how lost, how broken you might feel, healing, it is always possible. It starts with that willingness to reach out, to connect, to take that first step on the road to recovery.
And they also highlight that, there's no single recipe for recovery.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. Some people find it in 12-step meetings, therapy, creative expression. It's about finding what clicks for you, what helps you connect with that inner candle flame, that sense of peace that allows you to make choices from a place of strength, not compulsion.
In recovery, it's not a destination, it's a journey. Right?
Totally.
It's not about reaching some endpoint. It's about showing up for yourself each day, making those conscious choices, learning and growing.
And these accounts really underline how important self-compassion is through it all. It's about understanding that you're going to stumble.
You will. You will.
We're all human. And those moments, they don't define you.
No, they don't.
It's about treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend going through something tough.
Absolutely. And just as important, it's about being willing to ask for help when you need it. These stories, they're full of examples of people reaching out, finding support in community, and realizing they don't have to go it alone.
These SLAA members, they've given us such a valuable look into the world of addiction, the ups and downs of recovery, and just the resilience of the human spirit. Their stories, they're a testament to the power of being vulnerable, the way connection can change us, and the hope that healing, it really is always within reach.
They really are. And they leave us with a question, I think. If these folks who struggled so much could find a path to healing, to wholeness, what's possible for the rest of us as we, figure out our own journeys of self-discovery and growth?
What a powerful question to end on. And for anyone listening who might be, battling with sex and love addiction or any addiction, please remember you're not alone. There is help out there, people who get it, and a path to healing waiting for you.
And if we've learned anything from these stories, it's that even when things feel the darkest, there's always a flicker of hope. That inner candle flame, it's always there, waiting to be rekindled.
Beautifully said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of SLA. It's been truly eye-opening and inspiring.